Black Friday's here at JCPenney, and so are even more new Black Friday deals this Friday through Sunday. Don new Champion apparel for the family up to 40% off. Plus, find a little extra sparkle in your savings with up to 75% off fine jewelry. These deals and more end Sunday. Happy Black Friday, JCPenney. Offers valid on select items 11/12 through 11/14. Exclusions apply. Champion excluded from coupons. See store or DCP.com for details.
This is a CBC podcast.
The City of Moncton is pitching a new active transportation plan on its Let's Chat website and wants to know what you think of it. The new plan would add bike lanes or even separated bike paths in neighborhoods across the city and connect them to the existing trail network. The aim is to allow as many people as possible to easily and safely get where they're going on bike or on foot. And Khalil, you've been taking a look at the map?
Yeah, it's quite an ambitious map and one that will cost fair amount of money to get done, according to Jocelyn Cahoon. I spoke with her yesterday on the front steps of City Hall. She's the acting general manager of the Recreation, Culture and Events Department of the City of Moncton. You might remember the first phase of this, Jonna. The plan was started earlier this year when citizens were asked to identify gaps in cycling or walking infrastructure in the city. So a consultant compiled all that data. Last month, they put out this map with proposed cycling routes. Now the city is asking, did we get this right? So here's my conversation with Jocelyn Cahoon outside of City Hall yesterday.
What we were really looking for was citizens tell us where they want to go, what they like to do, and what their current issues are around AT in the city. And these consultants taking that information, looking at Moncton, looking at the roads, looking at our existing trails, and applying best practices to determine what would they propose be best used here in Moncton. So the map shows potential streets that could have various treatments, connectivity between trails, talks about sidewalks, it talks about various treatments. So things like bike lanes that are painted, those are more visual. Bike lanes that are actually separated with, they could be various kinds of barriers. We've seen them in other larger cities. And they're looking at, here's where we recommend these types of treatments go, and looking to the citizens, many of whom participated the first time, but even if we had some new information coming from new citizens saying, yes, I think that would work here, and yes, that's what we told you a few months ago, and then they will finalize those treatments in terms of recommendations for us.
Some people in the cycling community have been raising issues for years. I mean, there are parts of, one comes to mind on my occasional bike commute on St. George, where there's a bike lane, then all of a sudden there's no bike lane, and then 50 meters later there is a bike lane again. There's a lot of that sort of thing that goes on around the city. Why wait, ultimately? Why haven't those sorts of issues just been dealt with over the years?
We want to make sure that, and we know those exist, and those have been identified in the plan as spot gaps, actually, by the consultants. But what we want to do is ensure that we have a plan that will connect all of these. We have a number of great bike lanes and trails. We have a number of, based on our 2003 first go-round with our AT plan, a lot of those things were put in place. But you're correct in that we do have a lot of these spot gaps that you're cycling along because we need the connectivity, and we need to determine now in 2021, 22, what is the best practice in terms of alleviating those concerns. We don't want to sort of hit them as one-offs. We want to make sure that we have a plan and that it all comes together. So that's the purpose of the AT Plan 2, and what that will do is bring recommendations for the next 10 to 15 years. The other side of it is the policy and practice side in terms of, as we go forward, more connectivity between recreation and engineering. So when we're doing roadways, there will be policies put in place that if you're doing this in the engineering side, then you will do this in terms of active transportation connectivity with that system.
There was a trial here downtown. What was it? Not this past summer, but the summer before that. It wasn't particularly celebrated among the cyclists. It wasn't particularly celebrated among downtown drivers, downtown business community. What did the city learn from that experiment?
I think what we learned was that the one-off approach doesn't really work. Yeah. So that's why, with this plan and with them looking at it from a very high level in terms of the next 10 to 15 years, I think will be the most positive thing we could get out of that in terms of future planning and improving the AT network here in the city.
So let's talk about that next 10 to 15 years. Does it need to be that long?
Well, what we'll do is we will get recommendations from the consultants. And we know some of the treatments, especially for some of our challenging roads like Mountain Road, St. George, Main Street. Those were identified in 2003 as challenging roads.
I remember that. And here we are in 2021.
Exactly. So those are going to be treatments that will likely cost money, substantial amounts of money. So what we need is a long-term plan to then incorporate that into our capital budget as we move forward, and also incorporate that into our engineering projects that are already on the books. Our engineers plan 10 years ahead, particularly, 5 very specifically in our capital budget. So we want to ensure that the recommendations from this are integrated into that.
I would imagine that there are cynical listeners out there saying they knew this stuff in 2003. Why didn't they do it then? Some people will look at this report and say, great ideas. Are they going to be done?
Certainly we know that some of the treatments can be done quite easily and some will be more of a long-term approach. In 2003, we really were starting from scratch in terms of AT, and we were determining where people want to go, where are the key places in Moncton, how do people like to use the systems that we had. So it was really basic information. And we did some trail building, a lot of trail building. We did some bike lanes, and we did a lot of education because certainly, I don't know if you remember, but back when we were putting treatments on Salisbury Road, we were putting treatments on Shediac Road, we had a lot of controversy in the community. And I think the atmosphere has changed a lot, and people are looking at AT a little bit differently now. So, and certainly our participation in Let's Chat was indicative of the fact that there are more people interested in moving this movement forward and improving our AT system here in the city.
Jocelyn, finally, I want to talk about, I guess, the approach that the City of Moncton has taken when it comes to active transportation over the years. Moncton has treated it under the banner of recreation. And I know a lot of other cities, I'm not saying every other city, but many other cities treat bicycle lanes as a point of transportation. They fall under a different department. I hear that a lot in the cycling community here. They think that cycling, the gripe is that the city thinks that cycling is a recreational activity rather than transportation. Why does the city treat it that way? And is there a plan to change that approach?
Yeah, I think with this phase 2, certainly we have a multidisciplinary team that has been involved with this project from the get-go. So it hasn't just been a recreation project. We have engineering, we have urban planning, we have a number of different departments at the table. Back in 2003, that likely wasn't the case. So certainly I think we are taking that multi-departmental approach and realizing that now we need policies in terms of future builds for both engineering and recreation and how we can marry the two. That's really probably the best bang for our buck and the best action in terms of formulating this network on a go forward.
When roads in this town are dug up to do, say, water main upgrades or whatever, this year I can think of a bunch of them around my neighborhood. Dixon comes to mind. Why aren't they just upgraded at that point?
Well, that will be the plan, but certainly what we want to do is take a holistic approach to this. So look at it as a whole system rather than sort of, we're digging up this street today, let's do this. But with this plan, we will know in the future what the recommendation for various areas are. We have also provided these consultants with our 5-year capital plan in terms of engineering. So they're looking at that as well and trying to develop the AT as much as they can along with the already proposed engineering projects.
It seems a shame, though, that over the last 20 years we've dug up all sorts of roads, replaced water mains, redone this and that on the roads, and we haven't taken that opportunity to save a bunch of money and just throw in some bike lanes while we're at it.
I think the thing we want to consider, though, is that we want to stay away from that sort of one-off approach, that we want to approach it. And that's what we heard from citizens, is that they loved our trails, they liked bike lanes that have been added since 2003, but their issues were the connectivity between the two, which allows for more transportation rather than recreation. So that's where we'd like to get.
Jocelyn Cahoon is the acting general manager of the Recreation, Culture and Events Department of the City of Moncton. The city wants to hear from you on the latest active transportation plan. You can share your views and see the map at letschatmoncton.ca. Of course, we would like to hear your thoughts on this as well, whether you're a cyclist or pedestrian, looking for easier ways to connect to the trails and other walkways, roadways. Email us, info@ammoncton@cbc.ca. You can tweet me at Jonna Brewer CBC or call our talkback line 853-6636 or 1-877-222-1061.
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.